Hello, it's a Culture Genie and welcome to this episode of How You Fail at Thinking. The subject matter that we will be discussing today is the logical fallacy of authority arguments, or Argumentum ab auctoritate. The argument from authority is the fallacy of assuming an argument to be correct just because it comes from an authority, and only because it comes from an authority, and not due to any other arguments or logical reasons. The argument from authority, or Argumentum ab auctoritate, is a type of genetic fallacy that say it's about the arguer. It's like a positive version of the ad hominem fallacy, where the arguer attributes his own authority, or good authority is attributed to an argument due to the arguer for the argument being a good authority. But again, this is a genetic fallacy as it focuses upon the arguer and not upon the merits of the argument itself. The generic form of this argument is typically something like this. Person or persons A claim that X is true. Person or persons A are experts in the field concerning X. Therefore, X should be believed to be true. Experts can in this case be anyone that are argued for their argument being good due to who they are or what they have achieved before, rather than focusing upon the argument. Just because an expert says something does not mean that it must be right only by itself, and there are several reasons as to why authority in only itself is invalid as a form of argument. Firstly, experts can be wrong about things. In the past, we have several so-called experts that have been wrong about various claims about reality or in their own fields. A truth claim does not change in truthfulness just because someone says that it is so or not so, as truth stands alone, separate from the claimant. Usually, there are some exceptions even here, as you could imagine a situation where the claimant actually has a direct effect on the subject discussed, then this does not apply. An expert or authority can also have reasons to lie with regards to their field, due to personal interests. In whatever way. It could be increased funding, it could be that he wants his field not to be exposed as being a fraud, or the like. There could be many reasons as to why an expert within a field could be lying. It could also be a kind of false type of authority as well, as it could turn out that the expert isn't even an expert in the field that is discussed, or with regards to the subject discussed. This does not mean that you should just trust all statements as being equally valid, or that you should disregard experts when they say something or claim something. Instead, you should be critical to all claims and determine through evidence and arguments which claims are true or not. An expert should be able to explain something using the knowledge he has or other evidence in order to prove his claims, not just say,
"Trust me, bro, I have all of these fine merits, so you shouldn't think about it, and just trust me."
Because that has always resulted in good results in the past, haven't it? No, I didn't think so. Another type of authority argument that's also combined with the ad hominem fallacy is to argue about a person's lack of merits. instead of focusing their arguments upon what the person or opponent is arguing. As an appeal to a perceived lack of authority or expertise is fallacious, as it does not really disprove the argument, it just focuses upon the person and not the argument. After all, what the person lacking merits and expertise in the field argues for could, in theory, be correct, despite him lacking these merits, as his merits does not change the argument's correctness. However, just as it's important to not commit the fallacy of arguing from authority, it is also important to know when it's not a fallacy. Arguing about a person's merits is often fallacious. This is except in cases where the person in question's merits or authority is directly linked to arguments about the person and not a separate subject. For example, if he should have a job or the like, and if he has the merits to hold that job. As in the case of jobs, it is actually connected to the person and his ability, and thus arguments about his authority in the field are actually relevant, as experts are most likely to have the ability to perform the function, but they should also be able to demonstrate that they have the ability, of course. Another type of fallacy that is actually the rather opposite of the argument from authority is the argument of the commons, or the argument that because it's not from an authority, it must be true. And that is equally false, as it's about the arguer being not an expert, and does not confront the statement or the claim in itself, or make it any more correct. As it's also a genetic fallacy, where the focus is upon the arguer rather than the argument in itself. Arguments that are not connected to the arguer directly are not affected by the arguer's being correct or not. So don't presume that just because it's the opposite of the argument from authority that it's correct to argue like that. Dear listeners and viewers, I hope that this video about the logical fallacy of Argumentum ab auctoritate, or the argument from authority, was informative and useful to you. If you have any questions, please post them in the comment section. I will try to reply as soon as I can. And if you have any other comments, such as stories about your own experience with this fallacy or other comments, then please post them, as I like to interact with you, my dear viewers. And also don't forget to push the like button. Please do subscribe, as it would help the channel spread awareness about the humanities. اشترك بالقناة من فضلكم.